Bill, congratulations on being inducted into the California Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Thank you very much.
I have a few questions I want to ask you about your background. I'll start off with what individual or individuals have had the greatest influence on your wrestling career?
You know, I was extremely fortunate, you know, the coaches that guided me or Hall of Fame individuals, Erwin Goldblum from Simi Valley, Pierce College, you know, high school coaches, Dick Keeler, Bill Hogue, and then, you know, for my, you know, college career, you know, I thought Joe C., you know, had a incredible impact on me, you know, helping me develop, you know, on a number of different levels.
Did you have somebody you looked up to or idolized in wrestling?
You know, it's real funny. My roommate Joe Gonzalez and I, you know, before America became a force, one of my all-time favorites was a Soviet Olympic champion named Zagalov Abdulbakov, and we used to try. We'd go to clinics and see him, and he was with Bobby Douglas, and we used to try and emulate how he dressed and the techniques that he used that were extremely physical, and it was kind of, you know, one of those individuals that you kind of just gravitated to him because of his skill and how he handled himself.
What weight was he?
It's kind of funny. He was probably 136 and a half, 149, and nose was crooked, and it looked like he'd been, you know, been run over by a truck, and he was just one of those personalities. He kind of struck us, you know, comically, in the sense that we'd see him sometimes, you know, after wrestling, he'd have a highball and a cigarette in his hand. We were just like, we were amazed, you know, at how he could do that and still compete at the level that he did. But he was an individual that we sort of gravitated to because he was kind of like a Pied Piper, so to speak. You know, he had his own entourage, and we kind of, you know, assembled to it.
Bill, how'd you get started in wrestling?
You know, when I came out, when my parents moved out to California from Illinois, I wanted to play basketball. I really thought I had you know, I was a fairly good basketball player, and unfortunately, the high school coach who was the football coach where I played football wanted me to wrestle. And I said, hey, I don't know anything about wrestling. I don't want to do that. I'm a basketball player. And he had the basketball coach purposefully cut me. And so I was just kind of floating around campus. He said, well, you need to come into wrestling and do something. You can lift weights and do this and that. So I thought, well, I have to do something. I don't want to work for my parents. I don't want to go to work. I'd rather play some type of sport than work for a living. So it kind of began in high school that way, and it just kind of snowballed. You know, it wound up being something that I really enjoyed and was able to be successful at, and allowed me to define myself a little bit.
What do you attribute your wrestling success to?
You know, I think it's a combination of things. I think for the most part, I was a determined individual. I had a sense of belonging, wanting to be part of something successful, and that it didn't require having to depend on anyone else. It was a very personal. If I made the mistake, it was on me. I couldn't blame someone missed their block, someone didn't pass me the ball. And it gave me an intrinsic sense of self-being and self-worth, and it allowed me, you know, it made me accountable, it made me disciplined, it made me responsible, and I think those were things that were all parts of my life that I had that just hadn't been brought out yet, and I think wrestling brought those out.
Is there an outstanding situation or memory that you have involving wrestling?
You know, I probably think my most outstanding memory was 73, 74 when myself, Ed Mays, and Dick Molina, we became Cal State Bakersfield's first All-Americans in the school's history. I think that was a milestone that I'll always remember because we became part of something, the beginning of a program that etched itself, you know, for years to come on what went on here in Bakersfield.
Well, how about is there a particular match or sticks out in your mind?
Yeah, you have so many of them. I think a lot of them, you probably remember the ones you lose more than the ones you win. But I'd have to think what propelled me on my way to trying to be successful was I garnished a third place finish in 1966 in my first wrestling competition ever, and I think that was probably my most memorable meet because it's where it all began. And so I think to me that's more than anything else, it allowed me to go forward.
If you could start all over again, would you do anything different in regards to your wrestling career?
Truthfully, I don't necessarily know if I would. I don't know if I would be the man that I am right now. I think wrestling afforded me, it defined me not only, as a man, but it defined me, as a professional in how I handle myself. And so I don't necessarily think I would be in the same situation. I don't think I would want to change anything. I guess any individual can look back and say, well, I could have done that and I could have done this. I don't think I would have been the man that I am now, and having the contacts and the individuals and the gentlemen that took time to sacrifice and give of their time and their life to allow me to have the opportunities that I had, academically as well as athletically, and so I feel very fortunate, that the gentleman that I mentioned previously guided me, in a very positive way, in an ethical and moral way.
What would you like people to remember about you?
Well, I know one thing. I don't want my win-loss record on my tombstone. That's the first thing. That I was a fair individual. That that I was a good man more than anything else, and that that my children understood my desire and my drive, and that that they will love me and remember me for the type of man that I was, that I had compassion, that I was able to understand and communicate the things that are important in the development of the young men and women that that have come across my life through athletics. And I think it goes for my sons, my daughter, my wife. I think it's a difficult task to be a coach because there's a certain amount of ego and arrogance, and the ability to you almost cheat your family out of the quality time that they really deserve. But in that, I hope that they fondly remember me as a man that had strong conviction.
I think you alluded to this final question already, Bill, but how does wrestling contribute to your life?
Well, it's allowed me a wide range of contacts with a number of individuals, and allowed me to become professionally connected with a great deal of individuals nationally and internationally. It's afforded me the ability to be successful and be connected more so than any other sport. People talk about baseball and football and basketball. The reality is this: wrestling has its own brotherhood, its own combination of individuals. Unless you have wrestled, unless you have sacrificed and you've toiled and you've traveled and you've been in close quarters and confines with individuals, you never really know what your bond is. And so, wrestling has afforded me that ability, to make, lasting friendships, and and keep me abreast of being young. And so at that, I'm thankful that I was fortunate enough to have the individuals that came into my life, friends, competitors that more or less defined who I've become. So.
Again, thank you for all your contributions to wrestling, and congratulations to being inducted in the California Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.